Hello guys, today I am looking at Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. I know a lot of people really love this game. It's very dear to their heart because it's a very different game from Final Fantasy games. I mean, first of all, it's not turn-based, it's real-time combat, but it's very simplified and very simple, and it has a great tone and theme to it. And I mean, if we're being honest, the main theme of the main menu of the intro to this game is absolutely insanely good. I love it. It's really, really, really great. And so it's a cool thing. You can like choose your own character, customize them, and then you can choose what kind of characters are going to join you on your little journey. And there are multiple different races that you don't usually see in adventure games. Some of them are like, obviously you have the human race, the elf race, but then you also have these weird like aquiline looking guys, Selkies. Well, Selkies are the elf ones, but yeah, you have very interesting weird designs. And the main thing is that you kind of leave home in this caravan and you customize a few things about your home, about like your village name, some of your friends and your companions. And so essentially you need to renew the tree in the middle of town. Right, and I forgot, they were called the Calvites, Selkies, Lilties, and Ukes. And so you have 4 different races, 2 different sexes to choose from. And so you basically make your band of warriors and you kind of go on these little quests. And you kind of have these, these maps or whatever. And what was really cool about this game at the time is that it was 4-player co-op. So you could get as many characters as you wanted to come and play with you. And honestly, it made a massive difference when you had more people playing with you. And it was this whole thing that was really built up. This game was remastered, I think, on Switch. And people were really like expecting to play together or something, but apparently it was like region locked, or it was like locked to very specific regions, like not just North America, but like the eastern side of the states or something. So you couldn't play with basically other players, and just kind of like, oh, okay, well, what's the point now? Despite that, though, it's a very soulful, charming game. And essentially what happens is that you, again, have to go on this quest to replenish your tree that lives in the center of your village, and that's kind of the life force and energy of your people. And so you basically go on these journeys into these dungeons. Well, not really dungeons, but they are formed like dungeons. And you fight a boss at the end of it, and the boss usually drops this drop of mana or nectar, essentially, that you use to bring back to your town, and acts as this big cool cutscene thing. The really nice thing about this game is it gives you this feeling that you're on this large quest, because after every boss or every few levels, it will essentially say that, oh, you'll get a letter from home, or you'll send a letter back to someone, and you'll get this dialogue or this monologue about what you're doing. It really surprised me just how interesting I know this whole game was, even though it's very like simple. What really surprised me about it was things like, all the voice acting is done in kind of very odd, like British and English accents, but I think there's also Welsh in there, and Scottish and Irish. So there's a wide variety of different accents that you kind of associate with like classical mythology and this kind of thing. And so it's going for more of a Celtic vibe in this game, which is really nice. Another cool thing is that also you can choose what kinds of actions you can take. So obviously you have your kind of 3 basic attack, physical attack, very similar to like Phantasy Star, and then you have your magic attack, which you swipe through using L and R, and that'll change what you can do. And so that can be anything from blocking to attacking to using casting a fireball, Phoenix down, heal, which is super important. And again, like if you have someone else healing you while you're fighting a boss, like it's incredibly easy to actually play this game. And so alone, it's very, very difficult. You also need another character to carry the chalice, essentially, that the nectar has to go to, and essentially characters who go outside the range of the chalice will incur damage usually. And so you basically need to always guard it at all times. And some of the enemies are, kind of like these goblin, bokoblin kind of things. And sometimes they'll be very abstract elements and, things that are associated with Final Fantasy. But this feels like a combination of Final Fantasy and like some kind of other Nintendo IP. It's obviously on GameCube, so it's very Nintendo friendly. I just find it really interesting. Also, your health is displayed in, like miniature hearts. And while the first, I would say, 3 areas of the map are very like easy to go through, once you start getting into like the 4th year or something around there, the maps start to get really, really difficult and really hard. And again, I felt like this would be a great game if it had consistent online. It would make it very, nice to match with people, go on quests and whatever, and basically have a fun, cool, experience. But that's just really not the case, unfortunately, at least with the new Switch version, which is sad. But yeah, it's still a really soulful game. You can definitely play it for a while until, the game kind of like, blocks you from really going any further. And again, I think the strongest aspect of this game is honestly the music. Aside from the opening theme, when you're in the dungeons or areas, it has a very mythological, good feel to it. And just feels something, again, very Celtic and classic. From all your adventures, you also obviously get gil and can level up your weapons and buy new gear. Sometimes you have special events as you're traveling with your wagon on the road, and you'll come across maybe an ambush or a bunch of bandits or someone who needs like a ride or something. And so all these things are kind of compiled into this book, which is partially you journaling your adventure to report back to your family, and partially a history of the village itself. And so you feel like you're actually building a history for the village. And so again, after every 3 or so levels, that's like considered 1 year, and they have a big celebration in the town. And you have this lady doing this narration where she says, oh, we went to this area and then to this area and fought the great fox and whatever. And all the people are dancing and singing around the town square because, the thing has obviously been renewed and they have hope in the village again. And there's something about it that is just super interesting and soulful. And, I'm not a huge fan of D&D, but this feels more like D&D than any D&D or D&D inspired game I've played, because it streamlines all that stuff. I also forgot there's also a charge attack ability for both physical and for magic. For magic, you have to use the charge attack, but for physical, it's optional to just do a little bit more damage. Again, a lot of the bosses are pretty standard and straightforward in the sense that they usually take 3, big hits once you figure out their weakness, and then you kind of go on to the next one. Again, everything in this game is kind of very chibi styled and cute, but with Celtic like lore and themes and voice acting and all that good stuff. So it appeals to, I guess, the more classically, trained or something. I'm not sure. But this game just has a very particular vibe, and I just know some people just are very, very happy with said vibe. Again, you can add as many characters as you want to your roster for your caravan. You can take on any kind of expedition that you've taken on before and get gil and continue the story. But again, and the game itself kind of really blocks itself off at a certain point just because it becomes way too difficult. But yeah, that is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Definitely a favorite amongst some. And that's it. See you later.